She lived in scarcity, the kind of poverty that strips color from dreams. Every dawn was a battle for survival. The cracked walls of her small apartment whispered of forgotten hopes. The wind that passed through the broken window carried the scent of hunger and resignation. Yet, despite it all, she carried herself with quiet grace. Her hands were calloused, her clothes faded, but her eyes held a light unbroken by the weight of the world. He, on the other hand, lived surrounded by excess. His world was polished marble and soft silence, a penthouse overlooking the city like a kingdom in glass and steel. Power, wealth, and influence were his constant companions. But so was solitude. The laughter that echoed in his vast rooms was recorded, never real. He had everything that could be bought and nothing that could be felt. Their worlds should never have collided. Yet fate has a cruel sense of curiosity. It began with a chance encounter, so preferably, or perhaps a carefully crafted coincidence. She worked at a cafe tucked away between two skyscrapers, serving hurried souls who barely noticed her existence. He came in one morning, escaping a meeting he could not stand. A simple cup of coffee, served by trembling hands, met the gaze of a man who suddenly forgot his world of numbers and deals. For the first time in years, he looked, really looked, at someone. There was something disarming about her simplicity. She didn't bow, didn't flatter, didn't pretend. Her smile was fragile, yet it had the power to quiet the constant noise in his head. He found himself returning, first out of curiosity, then out of need. He began leaving generous tips, not for pity, but as if buying more moments in her presence. She refused the extra money one day, her eyes meeting his with quiet defiance. "I don't want your charity," she said. The word struck him deeper than he expected. From that moment, an invisible thread bound them. He started to learn her rhythms, when she arrived, when she left, how her laughter softened when she spoke to the old man who came for his daily tea. He sent anonymous donations to the cafe, ensured her neighborhood received new supplies, better lighting, more security. But he never told her. His help had to be invisible. His world could destroy hers if it came too close. Yet destiny doesn't keep secrets for long. One night she found herself walking home under a rain that seemed endless. A car stopped beside her, sleek, black, out of place in her world. The door opened and he stepped out, drenched but radiant in the stormlight. "You shouldn't be walking alone," he said. There was concern in his voice, but beneath it, something else. She hesitated. Everything about him spoke of danger and temptation. But something in his eyes, the same loneliness she carried in her heart, made her stay. That night marked the beginning of something neither could name. He offered her a ride, then a conversation, then a secret friendship. She showed him corners of the city he'd never seen, places where life was hard but real. He showed her silence, comfort, the strange gentleness hidden beneath wealth. They began to meet in the spaces between their worlds, where neither power nor poverty held sway. But every story born from contrast carries the weight of consequence. Whispers began to circle him, that the powerful man had changed, that a woman from nowhere had his attention. His empire didn't tolerate weakness, and love was the most dangerous weakness of all. She too felt the shift. The cafe owner's wary glances, the fear that her fragile world might shatter under his shadow. Still, neither could turn away. He found in her something no deal could buy, sincerity, unfiltered and raw. She found in him not a savior, but a man trying to remember what it meant to feel. Together they built a fragile bridge between two impossible worlds. And somewhere, in the quiet before dawn, as the city slept beneath the hum of streetlights, he touched her hand and whispered, "If I could give up everything just to stay here, I would." For a moment, she believed him. For a moment, the contrast between their worlds disappeared, and all that remained was the trembling promise of something beautiful and forbidden. Yet in stories like theirs, love is both salvation and ruin, and the night that brought them together would soon demand its price. The rain had stopped, but the storm between them had only begun. Days turned into weeks, and their secret world grew. A fragile garden hidden behind walls of silence. Every stolen moment was a spark in the dark, a shared coffee before dawn, a walk through the deserted park, a glance that lingered too long. He found himself abandoning meetings, canceling dinners, escaping the suffocating gold of his world just to hear her voice. But love in his realm was never innocent. His assistant noticed the changes first, the sudden absences, the distracted gaze. Then the board members began to whisper. Power has its own scent, and when it begins to fade, the vultures circle. Rumors spread like wildfire through glass offices and manicured smiles. A mysterious woman, a distraction, a weakness. Meanwhile, she lived her life trying to believe that happiness didn't have to come with a cost. Her neighbors noticed the new sparkle in her eyes, the way she hummed to herself, but even as joy bloomed, a shadow followed. The black car parked too long across the street. The strange man pretending to read a newspaper by the cafe. Someone was watching. One evening, she waited for him at their usual place, an old rooftop overlooking the city. The skyline glittered, mocking the darkness below. He was late. For the first time, she felt fear instead of anticipation. When he finally arrived, his face was pale, his jaw tight. "They know," he said quietly, "about us." Her heart froze. Who? Everyone who shouldn't. He looked out over the city, his empire shining beneath them. "They want to use you." "To get to me," silence swallowed her breath. The distance between them felt suddenly endless. "Then we stop," she whispered. "Before it's too late." He turned to her, eyes burning. "Too late?" His voice trembled with something close to desperation. "I was too late the moment I met you. You made me remember what it means to feel. I can't lose that again." Tears gathered in her eyes, but she shook her head. "You don't understand. Your world will destroy mine." He reached for her hand. "Then let's leave both behind." The words hung in the air like a dangerous promise. That night he made a plan, aimed to disappear. He had the means, the power, the resources. But walking away from an empire isn't as simple as closing a door. The next morning the newspapers bled with headlines: corporate scandal, betrayal, missing CEO. The vultures had attacked sooner than he expected. His accounts were frozen. His allies turned to enemies overnight. And she became their weapon. They came for her while she was closing the cafe. Two men in suits, polite smiles hiding threats. They asked questions she didn't understand, mentioned things she had never seen. She refused to speak, but they left her a message written in fear. "Tell him to come back, or you'll disappear too." When he found her, shaken, terrified, something in him broke. The man who had ruled from towers of glass became a shadow himself. He took her hand and said only one word: "Run." And they did. Through nameless streets, through motels that smelled of rust and rain, through nights where love was both refuge and curse. For the first time he was free of power, and yet chained by love. She, once the girl of quiet dignity, learned the taste of danger, of a world that wanted to tear them apart. But the past has long arms. One night, as dawn crept across a forgotten town, she woke to find him gone. His jacket still on the chair, his phone left behind. Only a note, scrawled in hurried handwriting: "I thought I could protect you by staying, but they'll never stop. If I disappear, you're safe. Forgive me." Her tears fell onto the ink, smearing his words until they bled into one another. But she didn't believe in goodbyes. Not theirs. Somewhere, beyond the reach of power and fear, she would find him again. Because love that defies the world does not simply fade. It hides, waiting for the moment to rise again. And as she stepped out into the morning light, with nothing but hope and the echo of his voice, she whispered to the wind, "I'll find you." No matter what world we're in, the city awoke behind her. One world ending, another beginning. The morning light felt colder without him. She wandered through the empty streets, clutching the crumpled note in her hand, as if it were a lifeline. His words echoed in her mind. "If I disappear, you're safe?" But safe from what? From who? The world she knew had always been simple, days measured by work, nights by hunger or hope. But now every shadow seemed to whisper secrets. Every stranger's glance felt loaded. She no longer belonged to the world of simplicity. His world, with its invisible enemies and silent power, had already claimed her. She went to the only person she thought she could trust, an old journalist named Matteo, a customer at the cafe who had always tipped with kindness and asked too many questions. When she showed him the note, he frowned, his eyes scanning the words like a man reading a ghost story. "You have no idea who he really is, do you, Faiseke?" he asked quietly. "I know who he is," she said, though her voice trembled. "At least I thought I did." Matteo sighed. "Your man wasn't just a CEO. He sat on the board of a corporation that finances governments, controls markets. And he found something they wanted buried. That's why he's gone."
Her pulse raced. Then they took him? Or he ran before they could? Matteo leaned forward. "If you want to find him, you'll have to go where he didn't want you to go." Into their world. That night, she crossed a line she never imagined crossing. Using a password she found scribbled inside his old notebook, she entered his private files: maps, coded emails, strange transactions. The deeper she looked, the more she realized that his disappearance wasn't an act of protection. It was a sacrifice. He had taken the fall for something vast, something that reached beyond money. One name appeared again and again, the Orion Group, a name that smelled of secrets and danger. She followed the trail, abandoned offices, locked warehouses, people who pretended not to know him. Each clue led her closer to a truth she wasn't ready to face. And then one night, a message appeared on her phone. No number. Just a single sentence. Stop looking. He's gone because he chose to be. Her blood ran cold. The next day, a black envelope arrived under her door. Inside, a photo. Him, standing beside a man she didn't recognize, his expression unreadable. The date stamp was recent. He was alive. But the eyes that once looked at her with warmth now seemed distant, almost resigned. Matteo found her staring at the photo hours later. "This isn't over," he said, "but you need to be careful. They'll try to make you believe he doesn't want you anymore." She clenched the photo in her fist. "Then they don't know me." That night, she packed what little she had and left the city. Her journey became one of whispers and shadows, moving from one place to another, tracing the echoes of his name. Sometimes she thought she could feel him nearby, watching from afar, protecting her the only way he knew how, by staying invisible. Until one evening, in a crowded train station in another country, she saw him. It was only for a second, a familiar face beneath the hood of a coat, moving quickly through the crowd. Her heart stopped. "Alex!" she cried out, the name torn from her chest. He froze for a heartbeat, turned, and their eyes met. Time shattered. He looked exactly the same, but something had changed. The warmth was gone, replaced by a coldness that didn't belong to him. A man followed close behind, one of the faces from the photo. He shook his head slowly, almost imperceptibly, before disappearing into the crowd. She ran after him, but by the time she reached the platform, he was gone again. Only a folded paper remained on the ground where he had stood. She picked it up with trembling hands. "Don't follow me. They're watching. If you love me, forget me." Tears blurred the words, but she could still see the faint mark of his handwriting. Shaky, rushed, human. She pressed the note to her heart and whispered into the cold air, "You can hide from them, but not from me." For she now understood. This wasn't just love. It was a war. Between truth and deception, power and purity. Two worlds that could never coexist. And she would burn both to the ground if it meant bringing him back.